Rishile Umakweru, Imina Bohani Shivambu, Namunta Ninikwile Utlamleri, Jeleshaku, Itzimishana Imesheketo, Ika Maelana na Siku Rawatatana, Derunga Father's Day. But before I proceed, allow me to pause and remember one of our own that has left us. Kulani Beri Albert Kolele from Kiani. He passed away this week on the 12th of June, and he will be laid to rest next week on June 16. He was a comrade, a brother, and a friend. We went to high school together at Kiani High, and later we enrolled at the University of the North, Teflop, together. Barry took a decision to join countless other young people in the country to enlist in a centuries-old fight for freedom of the African people. We planned and worked together to establish the Guyana Youth Congress, for which he was the first and the last president. He will be remembered as a courageous and a committed fighter. We crisscrossed the far north of Transvaal, organizing and fighting and hiding from the police. We used to exchange sleeping so that we could look out for one another in order to avoid arrest. Barry was full of life. He enjoyed good company, and no one was spared of his jokes. And I hope that after the COVID-19 pandemic, we will find time to celebrate his life. We want to send our condolences to his wife, children, his siblings, and to someone who became a very dependable comrade to us as young people, his mother. Condolences to his comrades, particularly that battalion of the Guyana Youth Congress. May God comfort them during this difficult time. Now, allow me to turn to the subject. I've been given responsibility to speak about Father's Day in the context of the increasing levels of violence against women and children. Let me make that attempt under these circumstances, difficult as they are. The joys Father's Day is a day where families the world over celebrate and honor fathers. In 1914, the Congress in the US declared the second Sunday of every May as Father's Day. It steadily gained recognition over the years until President Nixon signed a law that made it into a permanent holiday of the US in 1972. It started, but how did it start? It started in May 1909 when Sonara Dodd was sitting in church listening to a Mother's Day sermon. She decided that she wanted to have a day publicly set aside to celebrate her father's devotion, love and sacrifice. Her father, William Jackson Smart, of Spokane in the US, raised her and her siblings without the help of their mother, who had died in childbirth, leaving the husband to raise the children alone. In 1910, Sonara Dodd wanted to celebrate her Father's Day on the 5th of June, which was her father's birthday. She then petitioned for the holiday to be recognized in the city of Spokane in the US, in Eastern Washington. The young Sonara Smart campaigned in local churches, the YMCA centers, shops, and government offices to drum up support for her idea. She finally did get the support, but the city mayor pushed the date by 2 weeks in order to buy time to allow for arrangements of the festivities to happen. But what is important is that a daughter succeeded in getting the authorities to set aside a date in the annual calendar to honor her father. Now, this Father's Day was actually inspired by Mother's Day. Young Sonara was inspired by a lady called Anna Jervis, who, after the death of her mother in 1905, campaigned for a holiday to commemorate the work of her mother, Anna Reeves Jervis. Her mother had lost 8 of her 12 children to children's diseases. She earned the respect of the community by dedicating herself to eradicating childhood disease. She used to organize Mother's Day health clubs to buy medicine for the less fortunate and help care for those infected by tuberculosis. Anna Jervis' efforts were finally paid off when the first Mother's Day was observed in 1908. A memorial service was held at St. Andrew's Methodist Episcopal Church in Grafton in honor of hers and all mothers. Now, both Mother and Father's Days are a brainchild of daughters who wanted to honor their parents. This is the same girl who ranks last in many households and cultures. She is the last to eat after all have been served with meals of her toil. She provides unpaid labor for household in cleaning, cooking, raising children and building families and famous clans, caring for the sick and frail, but never features in the family inheritance list. Many are unhappy and ungrateful because they have been blessed only with daughters and no sons. Why? Because a girl is regarded as an addition and not the center of the family life. But she remains happy and beautiful. When she receives love, she returns it with loyalty and commitment. If you don't believe this, look at the story of Mrs. Anna Reeves Jervis and Mr. William Jackson Smart, whose abiding love for their children have been rewarded with a rare gift of days celebrated the world over, Mother and Father's Day. What happens in our life today is that many among us move from one church and prophet to another, asking for miracles to find a soulmate and a life partner. We might have been blessed with all earthly pleasures, such as jobs, money, and large houses whose worth is a pursuit of both rich and poor. But they lack someone to commit to. They lack someone they can trust with their instincts and their eyes closed. Someone to share their daily struggles and celebrate life's achievement with. However, some do find their soulmates, commit, have beautiful weddings, and share honeymoons with memories to last a lifetime, and incur fortunes that may lift a poor man from a miserable existence. Some are blessed with soulmates that spend years making countless prayers. So some are blessed with soulmates, but spend years making countless prayers, going to miracle makers and doctors to bless them with the fruit of their love, children. Some among these do finally get their prayers answered, and they celebrate the gift of life with all the silver and gold the earth is endowed with. Some do even better. They are blessed with children whose mold is the envy of stone covers. They are gifted with every parent's wish, obedient children with hearts of gold capable of picking nuggets from the foolish man's rumblings, appreciating art from the villager's performance, successful in education, careers, and their own family life. But as if that is not enough, soulmates are dumped in the margins of memory. Love becomes a historic phenomenon, children a historic account of a life once well lived, husbands become a nagging reminder of trouble, fathers become devil personified, memories of romance a refuse in a dumping site. Please don't speak like that, they say. After all, it is Father's Day. Which father? The voice calls. We live at a time when we pray for wives we neglect to love, and are blessed with children we have forgotten about. When husbands become monsters, so do fathers. Amongst us, many acquire new characters, become strangers to their wives and wolves to their children. Some are haunted by life itself. They marry beautiful women who become fearful little creatures and freeze at the sound of their husband's footsteps. Some become the devil himself and make their children run for the hills at the mention of the father's name. Worse still, some are found dead at the shame of having brought to life their grandchildren with their own daughters. Instead of love, women experience fear. Instead of care and support, they are raped. Instead of being celebrated, they are killed. Daughters, girlfriends, and wives, regardless of their station in life, suffer the same fate in the hands of men they once loved. But what causes this evil? The primary problem is the ideology of patriarchy, a system of a social system that allocates gender norms in women, in which women are treated as minors, whilst men play a dominant role in societal affairs. It allocates political and economic powers to men as a God-given right never to be questioned or changed. Until recently, women could not even vote in the so-called free world, even though there's no proof of men using their political voice better than women. Women were allowed to do work, but only in household and communal environments, where their labor is not paid for. Excluding women also limits competition to well-paying jobs and powerful positions reserved for men. It is the gender norms of patriarchy that are more insidious though. Men are assumed to be superior in ability and logic. Achievement and stature are seen as the domain of male species. The male physical strength is not only used as proof of superiority, but to enforce their will and punish those who dissent in the name of discipline. Women and children are almost without exception the victims of such toxic masculinity. Even young men in the prime of their youth think they have a girlfriend because they have a magic charm, physical attraction, and just plain swag. Grown-up men think they have proven ability and success in many departments of life. They fail to say sorry when life proves them fallible. On the other hand, women expect to be loved, handled gently, and respected, whilst angry men meet them with brute force. Unfortunately, patriarchy respects no social class hierarchy. It is the vice that permeates hallowed corridors of the elite and the underclass alike. Their worst manifestations are seen in the morally deranged and criminals. They torture, maim, rape, and kill those who contradict them or refuse their demands. When their stature is challenged and are contradicted on simple daily questions, they turn into beasts of the earth, cruel and vile. Women are killed and thrown in bushes or buried in shallow graves in order to hide evidence of wrongdoing. The only difference in social class behavior is in the manner of concealing the crime. Some have elaborate schemes difficult to unravel, the polished language of oppression they employ, and the legal resources they deploy to escape justice. but the day of testimony is coming. We as fathers and husbands better be reminded that the day of testimony is coming. It is now that I want to refer to 2 Kings chapter 23. When King Josiah of Judah renewed the broken covenant with God, a long list of successive kings of Israel had broken their covenant with God. They had disobeyed his commands, regulations, and decrees. They prayed to Baal and Asherah. They had appointed pagan priests who burnt incense to Baal, to the sun and the moon, to the constellations and all the starry hosts. King Josiah was furious and ordered the high priest to go through the city, removing all articles that were made for Baal and burn them. He did away with pagan priests appointed to burn incense. He removed the Asherah pole, ground it to powder, and scattered it on the graves of common people. He desecrated high places where incense was burned. He tore down the quarters of the male shrine prostitutes. As he was going through this, he noticed tombs on the hillside. He ordered that they be exhumed, bones removed, burn them on the altar to defile it in accordance with the word of the Lord, as proclaimed by the men of God who had foretold all his actions. Verse 17 and 18 are important. As he was walking through the graves, he saw a tombstone and he turned around, he looked at it and asked, "What is that tombstone I see?" The men of the city responded, "It marks the tomb of the man of God who came from Judah and pronounced against the altar of Bethel the very things you have done to it." In verse 18, the king responds, "Leave it alone. Don't let anyone disturb his bones." So they spared his bones and those of the prophet who had come from Samaria. This is the power of testimony. This man was dead. His bones were in the mercy of those who lived. Yet they were saved because he had witnesses. When asked, they answered. That tombstone marks the tomb of the man of God. And because of that testimony he gave, the grave was saved. His bones were saved from fire. The question we should ask ourselves as fathers is, when the testimony of our fatherhood is needed, who will be the witnesses and what will they say? I want to suggest the best witnesses for this purpose are our children and wives, particularly our daughters. When these children get into the witness box, what testimony will they give? When the neighbors respond to a screaming woman in a house and come to ask what the commotion is all about, who will give testimony and what will they say? When outsiders come to attend to a girl mourning and groaning in anguish, when a little girl gives birth to a child and the paternity of the child is asked, when a woman is killed and her body is dumped in the bushes nearby or buried in a shallow grave, and when our loved ones fall victim to this pandemic and the police come looking for suspects, who will give testimony and what will they say? We want our children to be the Sonara Dawds of this world, who will give testimony about our love, care, and protection. We want them to say, "This is a committed, loving father." Let's try harder every day. We are all men of flesh, weakness and prone to sin. Let us commit ourselves to be loving and caring fathers to our children and all children in our communities. Let us recommit ourselves to our wives and respect all women in the community. When we fall short, let's try harder. When we offend, let us repent. When in doubt, let us ask. In this way, Father's Day will give an opportunity to our little children and wives to give testimony to our love. Let us teach and practice equality in our homes so that our children can write new gender norms where there will be no subservient relations between boys and girls. May the love of God be with all fathers and their families this Father's Day. Amen.